Welcome back to the channel Silent Ruptor. Now there are very few chapters left of the Necromancer of the Shadows. So I will upload a new video on this topic after I reach 500 subscribers. You can check out different stories from link in description. Without any delay, let's start. Although there shouldn't be any problem, make sure you don't take off the Abyssal Shroud earring, otherwise, there is a chance that other people might find you, Anastasia said to Evan as both of them flew towards the teleportation building of the hidden world of Drades. Don't worry, I will be careful, Evan nodded upon hearing her. As they flew, Anastasia took out a storage ring and handed it to Evan. Give it to Alora. Evan took the storage ring and raised an eyebrow. What's inside it? That glutton was pestering me for the past few days that she is going somewhere with her father and asked me to make a lot of dishes for her that she can eat after leaving, Anastasia said while shaking her head. Why did she ask you to make dishes for her? I could have cooked for her after leaving. Hearing Evan, a mocking smile appeared on Anastasia's face and she said in an amused voice. I told her you could cook for her, but she said your cooking is average and doesn't taste as good as mine. Evan's mouth twitched when he heard Anastasia, but he didn't know what to say. This woman corrupted my daughter. She used to delightfully eat my cooking, but now she is saying my cooking is average and doesn't taste good. Although Evan knew his cooking was actually even worse than average, he still felt distressed after hearing Anastasia. I think I should taste some of the dishes from this storage ring and learn how to make good dishes. He thought and looked at the storage ring with flashing eyes. Just when Evan was thinking about tasting some of the dishes from the storage ring, a black golden light flashed around the ring and it disappeared. At the same time, he heard Alora sighing in relief as if she had just escaped a disaster. Evan was speechless when he heard Alora sighing in relief and looked at Anastasia with narrowed eyes. I was right, this woman really corrupted my daughter, otherwise, she would have definitely shared her food with me. Anastasia ignored Evan's narrowed eyes and continued to fly with a smile on her face. Soon, both of them reached the teleportation building and saw Ashley standing there. Is everything ready? Evan asked after landing some distance away from the teleportation building. I have set the coordinates. Though, even after the teleportation, you will have to fly for 1 or 2 days to reach your destination, Ashley said as she led Evan and Anastasia inside the building. The location of my teleportation is far away from the Elvenshine Empire, right? Although the Forbidden Land and the Elvenshine Empire are both located in the Southern Territory, they are still millions of kilometers apart from each other, so you don't have to worry about that, Ashley said in a light voice as the three of them came in front of a teleportation formation. It must have taken you hundreds of years to create this teleportation building that is connected with all the places of Utopia, right? Anastasia said in a curious voice as she looked at the teleportation formation engraved in front of her. Yes, I started working on this thing when I became a rank 4 core evolver and was able to finish it only after becoming a rank 5 core evolver. Ashley said with a sigh as she remembered the days when she had to run from one place to another to connect the teleportation formation to all the places of Utopia. Anastasia nodded her head in admiration hearing Ashley and didn't say anything else. All right, stand in the middle of the formation so I can send you away, Ashley said after checking the formation one last time. Evan nodded his head, hearing Ashley, and stood in the middle of it. Be careful and don't act recklessly because the people who live in the Forbidden Land are not normal, Anastasia said in a serious voice. I have no intention of messing with the people of Forbidden Land. I am going there just to confirm a few things, Evan said with a sigh, unable to understand why everyone is thinking he is going to the Forbidden Land to cause trouble. Are you ready? Ashley asked once Evan stood on the teleportation formation. Hearing Ashley, Evan nodded his head and in the next second, his appearance changed, making him look like an ordinary elf with a very low presence. At the same time, a burst of silver light engulfed the surroundings and Evan disappeared from there. Once Evan disappeared, Ashley deactivated the formation and looked at Anastasia. Why did you not go with him? The Forbidden Land is quite dangerous. Aren't you worried something might happen to him there? Anastasia rolled her eyes at Ashley's question and replied in a calm voice. If you think he will be in danger just because his rank is low compared to top-level core evolvers of Utopia, then you are greatly mistaken. Even though his rank is low, he will be safe as long as a powerful rank 5 core evolver doesn't make a move against him. She paused after saying this and added after a moment, as for why I didn't go with him, it's because he refused to take me, saying there is no need for me to go with him. Rank 5. Ashley was surprised when she heard Anastasia, but she didn't doubt her words, especially when she thought about Evan's abnormality. By the way, do you know why he did not take you with him? Anastasia nodded her head, hearing Ashley, and turned around to leave. I have a hunch, but I am not entirely sure if I am correct or not. Ashley looked at Anastasia's departing figure and shook her head. She glanced at the teleportation formation one last time and disappeared from there. At the same time, in a dark place somewhere in the southern territory of Utopia, a silver light flashed and Evan appeared there. Evan, who currently looked like an ordinary elf with black hair, looked around him and found he was standing inside the hollow trunk of a giant tree. A few concealment formations were engraved inside the hollow tree trunk, hiding the teleportation formation, and there was no entrance to go outside or come inside the tree trunk. Do I need to break this tree to go outside? Evan muttered with a speechless look on his face and used his spiritual senses to look outside of the tree trunk. Upon looking outside, he saw the tree he was in was actually bursting with vitality and was filled with green leaves with thousands of flowers blooming on it. The trunk of this tree is completely hollow, but from the outside, it is bursting with vitality. Evan muttered with a surprised look on his face and, after confirming there was no one in his surroundings, he used the nether stride skill of his boots of Voidgazer to leave the tree trunk and come outside. I don't know what Ashley was thinking when she created the formation inside this trunk. If a person doesn't have the skill to teleport out, they would have to shatter the tree, which will leave the teleportation formation in the open, Evan said with a shake of his head and took a step forward. As he took a step forward, he disappeared from his place and appeared high in the sky. After appearing high in the sky, Evan noticed he was currently in the middle of a vast forest, and even with his exceptional eyes that could see thousands of kilometers away, he couldn't see the end of the forest, as expected from the southern territory where the Empire of Elves is located. This place is really a paradise for those who love nature, Evan said to himself as he looked at the vast forest under him. Well, I would have loved to go to the Elvenshine Empire to tour around, but now is not the time. The storage ring Evan was wearing flashed, and a 50-meter-long airship in the shape of a water droplet appeared in front of him. The airship was jet black in color and it was releasing the aura of a peak rank 4 artifact. Although that old foxy guy is annoying, his connections are really useful, Evan said to himself as he nodded his head in satisfaction while looking at the airship. Normally, it would have been difficult for him to get a peak rank 4 airship in a short period of time, but Alaric had a lot of connections, so it wasn't difficult for him to get a rank 4 airship. I should be able to reach my destination in just a few hours using this, Evan said and put his hand on the airship. After putting his hand on it, he poured some of his world essence into it, and the moment he did, the airship opened, and Evan entered. As he entered, the airship closed behind him and he found himself standing in a large hallway. This ship is really huge. Evan used his spiritual senses to scan the airship and found it had a space of nearly 100 kilometers, with the largest area occupied by the training ground. Evan didn't care too much about the space inside the airship and took a step forward, instantly appearing in the control room of the ship. The airship had its own AI intelligence, so after coming to the control room, Evan simply sat down on the chair and told the AI to move towards the Fragile End. The Fragile End is the name of the city built closer to the Forbidden Land. This city is very similar to Star City, which is built near the Dark Forest. Like the Star City, which is the gathering place for the people who enter the Dark Forest, the Fragile End is the gathering place for the people who enter the Forbidden Land. Although Star City and Fragile End are similar to each other, there is still a very big difference between them. The Dark Forest is divided into different parts, like the outer area, middle area, and others, so even the low-level core evolvers can enter the Dark Forest to look for fortune. Because of this, you can find many low-level core evolvers in the Star City. But the Fragile End is different. The Forbidden Land is a very dangerous place, not only because of the monsters and the people who live there but because of its environment as well. There are not many low-level core evolvers who have the courage to enter the Forbidden Land, so most of the people who gather in the Fragile End are high-level core evolvers. Rank 1 and Rank 2 core evolvers are a minority in the Fragile End, and most of the people are Rank 3 or above. FGEEWEBNOL. C Sigma M. Although I have Zorda who reached mid-level rank 4, I still need to be careful in that place, Evan said to himself and closed his eyes. The reason he was going to Fragile End instead of directly entering the Forbidden Land was because he wanted to buy a map of the Forbidden Land before going there. After confirming that the airship was moving towards the Fragile End, Evan closed his eyes and focused on his core. He was just a little bit away from reaching the peak of rank 2, so he wanted to see if he could break through before reaching the fragile end. The peak rank 4 airship moved at the speed of lightning, and Evan continued to absorb more world essence to reach the peak of rank 2. ewebnovel.com. While Evan was trying to break through, Allura came out of his soul space, and seeing he was busy, she started to move around the ship in search of something interesting. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours passed by, and the AI of the ship informed Evan that they were about to reach the fragile end. Hearing the AI, Evan opened his eyes and took a deep breath. I just need to cultivate for 1 or 2 hours more and I should be able to reach the peak of rank 2, he muttered and stood up from his seat. As he stood up, a screen appeared in front of him, showing a magnificent city built in the middle of a vast forest. So this is the fragile end, huh? Evan muttered in a low voice and ordered the AI of the ship to stop moving forward. Seeing that he was about to reach the fragile end, Evan stopped the airship a few hundred kilometers away from the city and summoned Allura back into his soul space. After summoning her, he left the airship, put it back inside his storage ring and flew towards the city on his own. Creating such a large city in the middle of a vast forest must have been quite challenging, especially with so many monsters lurking inside the forest. Evan muttered to himself as he looked at the city in front of him. Similar to Star City, the fragile end also had tall buildings reaching thousands of meters high. People of different species were roaming inside, and even though he didn't enter the city, he could still feel the powerful auras of many core evolvers. Soon, Evan reached the city gate and landed some distance from it. People from different species were continuously going in and leaving the city, and even though the city was in the middle of a vast forest, there were no guards standing outside to guard the entrance. Well, there are many rank 5 core evolvers in the fragile end, so it's understandable that people are not worried about the monsters of the forest, Evan thought to himself as he entered the city. Because of the abyssal shroud, Evan's aura was completely hidden and no one could see that he was just a mid-level rank 2 core evolver. Because no one could feel his aura, people didn't find it strange that a rank 2 core evolver like him had come to the fragile end alone. As Evan entered the city, he was greeted by the sight of different kinds of shops selling equipment, potions, materials, and various other items. The thing that he found strange was that most of the equipment being sold were actually rank 3, with some even being rank 4. It's rare to see even rank 2 equipment being sold in Star City, but here, people are selling them like cabbage. Evan thought with a surprised look on his face. However, when he considered that most of the people in the fragile end were rank 3 or above, it made sense that there were many high-level pieces of equipment. After all, people who came to the fragile end usually entered the Forbidden Land, and it's essential to have good equipment while entering a dangerous place like that. I don't need any equipment, but I still need to buy some fortitude potions and a map for the Forbidden Land, Evan said inwardly, and after walking for a while, he came to a potion shop. The environment of the Forbidden Land was quite harsh and ever-changing. Upon entering the Forbidden Land, you might find yourself in a place engulfed in ice where even rank 3 and rank 4 core evolvers would turn into ice statues in just a few minutes. But just a few minutes later, that ice area might turn into a boiling desert where you would turn into a charred corpse without being able to do anything. In order to protect themselves from the harsh and ever-changing environment of the Forbidden Land, people have to use fortitude potions that can save them from the harsh environment. Fortitude potions are special potions made using the Aegis flowers that can only be found inside the Forbidden Land. Without fortitude potions, it's very difficult for core evolvers to safely explore the Forbidden Land. Fortitude potions come in different ranks, from rank 1 to rank 5. The higher the rank of the potion, the greater its effect. However, shops only sell potions from rank 1 to rank 3, as rank 4 and above Aegis flowers are very rare, making it difficult to create high-level potions. Evan didn't care too much about the high-level potions because, from the information he got from Sarath and Anastasia, he knew that he would be able to easily survive in the environment of the Forbidden Land using rank 3 fortitude potions. The price of high-grade rank 3 fortitude potions was very high, reaching 20 million high-grade essence stones. Although the price was very high, Evan still bought 5 of them, spending 100 million essence stones. The effect of one potion can last for a month, so I can stay in the Forbidden Land for 5 months, Evan said to himself and left the potion shop. After leaving, he wandered the city for a bit and finally found a shop selling maps of the Forbidden Land. Although the environment of the Forbidden Land was ever-changing and the map was not very useful, it could still help him determine the territories of the different tribes that lived there. At the same time, it could make him more familiar with the Forbidden Land as he didn't know where he should go after entering. Although the spirit of the Tower of Ascension told him to go to the Forbidden Land of Utopia, it didn't specifically instruct him on where to go after entering. After purchasing the map, Evan left the shop and headed towards the exit of the Fragile End, having bought everything he needed. While he was walking towards the exit, he suddenly noticed a rank 3 beastkin covered in injuries, surrounded by a few men. frewebnoel.com. Evan was planning to ignore them, but when he heard what they were talking about, his footsteps halted and he listened to their conversation with keen interest. I'm telling the truth, the Stone Tribe has gone berserk and is hunting all the core evolvers in their territory, the injured beastkin said in a voice filled with fear. We were 5 people who entered their territory, but they suddenly attacked us. Because of the sudden attack, the 4 people who went with me were all killed. I am the only one who successfully escaped. The people who heard the beastkin were stunned, and one of them asked in a serious voice, what was the rank of the stonemen who attacked you? The beastkin took a deep breath hearing the question and said in a trembling voice. There were a total of 3 stonemen who attacked us. Among them, 2 were rank 3, and the last one was at least beginner level rank 4. Blade that covered his hand. After killing all 4 core evolvers, Evan didn't stop there and quickly summoned back Zorda, whom he had released earlier. After summoning him back, he put away the bodies of the 4 individuals and quickly left, fearing that someone from the Fragile End might have sensed their small fight. Luckily, no one came after him. Once he was sure that no one was following him, Evan took out his airship and headed towards the Forbidden Land. While on his way, he took out the body of the peak rank 2 orc and used his skill. Shadow Resurrection. Fu K, from where did you get this thing? Evan cursed with an ugly look on his face as he examined a small mirror in his hand. We found it a few years ago in the Forbidden Land, the peak rank 2 orc, whom Evan had turned into a shadow undead replied in a respectful voice. Freeweben Sigma Vel, com. Damn it, there are dozens of map shops in the Fragile End, but my lousy luck had to lead me into his shop, Evan said gloomily while rubbing his eyebrows. It must be because of my Doom-bringer bloodline that decreases my luck. Everything had been going smoothly for the past 2 months, so it couldn't take it anymore and decided to mess with me. He sighed loudly and looked at the mirror in his hand helplessly. To think this cheap orc would find an artifact like this in the Forbidden Land. Reality Mirror, mid-level rank 5. Upon activation, the Reality Mirror creates a field in an area of 10 to 5,000 meters. Within the field, all artifacts below mid-level rank 5 lose their effectiveness for a certain period of time. The lower the level of the artifact, the longer it takes to regain its function. While holding the Reality Mirror, 3 times a day, you can use the appraisal skill on the people who enter the field created by the Reality Mirror to see their status window and get information about them. The Abyssal Shroud is a mid-level rank 4 artifact, so it must have stopped working when I entered that damned shop, Evan said with a sigh, feeling a headache coming on. He had stayed inside the shop, which was covered in the field created by the Reality Mirror for only a minute or so, but during that minute, his Abyssal Shroud had stopped working. This meant that if anyone had been searching for him using an artifact or skill during that time would have definitely found his location. Although the chances are not high, there are still many artifacts in Utopia that can search for people 24/7. When the Abyssal Shroud lost its effect earlier, someone might have found my location. Evan thought with a serious look on his face. I just hope there won't be a big boss coming after me because of these bastards. He said and kicked the peak rank 2 orc back into his shadow storage. After kicking the orc into his shadow storage, he checked the airship map and saw it would take him 1.5 hours to reach the Forbidden Land. Let's break through to the peak of rank 2 so I can have a little more power if something unexpected happens, Evan said while taking a deep breath and sitting down. His shadow shook a bit and a large number of essence stones appeared around him. As the essence stones appeared, the density of world essence in the surroundings increased and Evan started to absorb it. Somewhere within the Elvenshine Empire, a beautiful female elf with long golden hair suddenly opened her eyes. The elf shifted her green eyes to her right side, her gaze falling on a crystal orb that was glowing brightly, showing a marked location. Seeing the glowing orb, Illustraya's eyes widened in shock and she quickly stood up. Fu King Hell, that bastard finally decided to show up, she shouted loudly and immediately picked up the crystal orb. She carefully looked at the location shown on the orb and, after seeing where it was, a look of surprise flashed in her green eyes. That bastard is also in the Northern Territory, she muttered in a low voice and narrowed her eyes. She took a closer look at the marked location and, after seeing it was in the fragile end, she didn't say anything and turned into a streak of golden light, heading straight towards the fragile end. As she was flying, the glowing crystal in her hand suddenly dimmed and stopped working. Illustraea halted and looked at the crystal orb with a raised eyebrow. That bastard, did he find out I was coming and hide once again? She muttered with a frown on her face as she looked at the last location the crystal orb had shown, and after thinking about it for a while, decided to go to the fragile end anyway. Although the Elvenshine Empire was quite far from the fragile end, using the teleportation formation, Illustraea arrived there in less than 2 hours. After arriving at the fragile end, she immediately followed the last location shown on the crystal orb and arrived at the map shop where Evan had bought the map of the Forbidden Land. Looking at the map shop, a thoughtful look appeared on Illustraea's face. Is he planning to enter the Forbidden Land? She wondered inwardly and entered the shop. 5 minutes later, Illustraea left the shop and walked towards the exit with an expressionless face. Inside the map shop, 5 orcs sat in their positions with calm looks on their faces. Although there was a calm look on their faces, anyone who saw them would be scared shitless because there was no life force in their bodies. So these stupid orcs tried to rob him, huh? Illustraea thought to herself with a sneer on her face. At the same time, she recalled the information about the reality mirror that she had received from the orcs. Latest chapters at freewebnovel.com only. He must have taken the reality mirror after killing the orcs who came after him. She muttered in a low voice and looked in the direction of the Forbidden Land. Since he bought a map of the Forbidden Land and came to the fragile end, he must be planning to go to the Forbidden Land, she thought, and turned into a streak of golden light, flying towards the Forbidden Land at rapid speed. In the airship, Evan sat in the control room of the ship and the large amount of essence stones that he had taken out earlier had all disappeared. The primordial monarch core within his body spun rapidly, and an overwhelming force circulated throughout his body. Evan focused on guiding the energy towards his core, and after a few minutes, boom, a booming sound came from his body and Evan's core reached the peak of rank 2. Name: Evan Azroth. Race: Eltern. Current syncretization rate between your race Eltern and the origin universe, 62%. Rank: peak of rank 2. Bloodline: Doombringer, partially awakened, 2nd stage. Strength: 1953, up pointing arrow 632. Agility: 1933, up pointing arrow 654. Endurance: 2050 plus 2050, effective ruler's authority. Up pointing arrow 640. World Essence: 2154, up pointing arrow 704. Stamina: 2061, up pointing arrow 659. Intelligence: 1920 plus 192, effective false progenitor title, up pointing arrow 620. Primordial shadow energy: 3500, up pointing arrow 1500. Current understanding of the conceptual energy of void, 30.03%. Bound flame: prismatic fire. Soul weapon: halberd of destruction. Evan looked at his status window and seeing the huge increase in his stat points, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. This content is taken from freewebnovel.com. Now I am a little more confident in entering the Forbidden Land, he said with a sigh and closed his status window. After closing the status window, he looked at the airship's map and saw he was about to reach the Forbidden Land. Just 10 more minutes, huh? He muttered in a low voice and walked out of the control room, heading towards the living room of the airship. As he approached the living room, the automatic door opened on its own, and Evan saw Laura sitting on a sofa playing a game on a large holographic screen floating in front of her. Seeing Laura playing a game, Evan was dazed for a moment, but he soon came back to his senses and walked towards her. I will also play games without any worries after taking care of the shitty things that are going on in my life, he said to himself as he sat down beside Elora. There were many interesting games in Utopia, including full dive ones created by the Mechadroids. Evan had known about them for quite some time, but he never got the chance to play them. Sigh, she is reminding me of my otaku days on Earth, where I didn't have to worry about some crazy strong big boss coming after me because of my identity, Evan said, inwardly, and patted Elora's head, who was fully engrossed in playing the game. Have you eaten? He asked in a soft voice while looking at the holographic screen where a fat man was running around holding a large chocolate stick in his hand. Even the game she is playing is related to food, Evan thought with a strange look on his face, wondering just why she was so obsessed with food. Hearing Evan's question, Alora paused the game and carefully put down the remote as if she was afraid of breaking it. I was waiting for father, so I did not eat anything. Let's eat together. Hearing Alora, Evan looked at her with an amused smile and wiped her face with a handkerchief. You haven't eaten anything, huh? He said with a smile on his face while showing her the oil stains he wiped from her mouth. Alora's eyes widened when she saw this, and an expression that seemed to say, "How did I forget about this?" appeared on her face. Evan chuckled when he saw Alora's look of disbelief and pinched her cheeks. It's good that you have already eaten. We are about to reach our destination, so let's go, he said and picked her up from the sofa. We are about to reach. Alora's eyes lit up when she heard Evan. Evan brought Alora into the control room, and from the screen of the airship, they could see the horizon in front of them turning light brown in color, with large sandstorms reaching the sky and obscuring their view. The blue sky was painted in brown because of the dust clouds, and even after using his skills, Evan couldn't see beyond the sandstorm. So there is currently a sandstorm going on in the Forbidden Land. Evan muttered with narrowed eyes and took out a fortitude potion that he had bought in the Fragile End, freewebano-vel.com. He drank the potion and at the same time, changed his appearance from an elf to a normal-looking human with black hair, black eyes and an average-looking oval-shaped face. The reason he changed his appearance again was because of what happened in the Fragile End. If someone successfully found his location during the time Abyssal Shroud stopped working, it would be dangerous for him to use the same appearance he used in the city. In just a few minutes, the airship reached the edge of the Forbidden Land, and even though he was inside the airship, Evan could feel the power of the sandstorm. Alora, once we enter the Forbidden Land, you can't come out unless I call you, okay? Before leaving the airship, Evan looked at Alora and spoke in a serious voice. Although Alora looked like a normal girl with a transparent body after coming out of his soul space, she was still an origin-grade soul weapon, and Evan was afraid that high-level core evolvers would recognize her anomaly. For high-level core evolvers, Alora was like a walking piece of treasure, so after finding out about her, they would definitely try to capture her, and Evan didn't want to deal with any of them. His main goal in coming to the Forbidden Land was to get answers to some questions that the spirit of the Tower of Ascension wasn't able to give him, so he wanted to avoid all unnecessary troubles. When Alora saw Evan's serious face, she nodded her head and went back inside his soul space. Once Alora went back inside his soul space, he left the airship, put it back inside his storage ring and landed at the edge of the Forbidden Land, looking at the massive sandstorm in front of him. Here goes nothing, Evan said, taking a deep breath as he stepped into the sandstorm. The moment he entered, his vision spun and dizziness assaulted his senses. But in less than a second, everything returned to normal and Evan regained control over his body. As soon as he regained control over his body, he looked around and only one thought came to his mind. "Fouquet, my luck is terrible. New chapters are published on. Damn, what the hell is wrong with my luck? I did not sign up for this sh*t. Evan cursed inwardly as he looked at the black metal cage in front of him. Inside the cage, there was a 1-meter-tall gray creature. The creature was entirely made of stone, with cracks running all over its body, including its face, hands, and legs, making it look like a cracked stone statue. If it weren't for the 2 round eyes on its face that were constantly blinking, Evan would have thought it was just a broken stone statue trapped in a cage. The small creature trapped inside the cage was obviously a stone man, and upon seeing it, Evan immediately remembered the conversation he had overheard in the Fragile End. Don't tell me the stone tribe is attacking everyone because this guy was kidnapped by someone, he thought, feeling a headache. He knew that the Forbidden Land was a strange place where people would be thrown to a random location upon entering, but he never thought he would end up in a place like this. Just by looking at the stone man, it wasn't difficult for Evan to guess that it was beaten and kidnapped by someone, and since he appeared in front of the stone man, there was a very high chance the people who kidnapped him were nearby. I should Fu King leave before trouble comes looking for me, Evan thought to himself and was about to flee. Unfortunately, it wasn't his day, and as soon as he thought about running away, 3 individuals suddenly surrounded him. The sandstorm raged and the fierce wind, filled with sharp sand particles, moved forward like a tsunami. Evan stood in the middle of the sandstorm, surrounded by 3 individuals, and rubbed his forehead. I should have seen a fortune teller before leaving the closed world of dryads. He took a deep breath and looked at the 3 individuals who were eyeing him suspiciously. Who are you? A 6-foot-tall creature with green skin, yellow dots all over its body and the head of a lizard asked in a cold voice. A long tail extended from his back, and he held a sharp spear in his claw-like hands. A lizard man, Evan recognized the creature and narrowed his eyes. He looked at the other two individuals and saw that one was a beastkin with tiger-like features, and the last one was an elf. I can't perceive their ranks. The main problem Evan was facing was that, like him, the three individuals were using some kind of artifact to hide their ranks, so he wasn't sure about their power levels. Let's test the waters first. He took a deep breath and was about to speak, but before he could. Please Saw save me, the stone man trapped in the black cage said in a weak voice. Evan's face turned ugly when he heard the stone man and he noticed the expressions of the lizard man and the others turned extremely cold towards him. The only reason the lizard man and the others hadn't attacked Evan was that, like him, they also couldn't see his rank. Feeling the murderous aura coming from the lizard man and the others, Evan felt like killing the stone man. But he tried to stay calm. Look, I don't have any intentions of meddling in your business. I came here by accident, so I would appreciate it if you stopped releasing your killing intent towards me and we can all go our own ways, he said in a calm voice, neither sounding nervous, which would make him look weak, nor arrogant, which would infuriate the lizard man and others. Seeing Evan's calm demeanor, the three individuals narrowed their eyes. Boss, we can't let him leave. If we let him go and he informs others about us, we will be in trouble. The beastkin with tiger features sent a sound transmission to the lizard man and the elf. He is right, boss. Once the stone tribe finds out about us, we will be hunted down by them. The elf also agreed with the beastkin and said in a serious voice. Hearing his minions, the lizard man didn't speak and looked at Evan with a thoughtful expression. Although they weren't saying anything, their expressions told Evan they were using sound transmission to communicate. It doesn't look like this matter is going to end easily, he thought to himself and activated the reality mirror, creating a field that covered the lizard man and the others. The moment the field covered them, the artifacts that were hiding their ranks stopped working, and Evan was able to discern their ranks. Just to clarify, the person who activates the reality mirror won't be affected by it, so Evan's abyssal shroud is still working. The lizard man is a mid-level rank 4, the elf is a beginner level rank 4, and the beastkin is at the peak of rank 3. Evan sighed inwardly, feeling that the Forbidden Land was really a dangerous place. It's rare to see even a single rank 4 core evolver outside, but he had encountered 2 of them the moment he entered the Forbidden Land. Fortunately, they are not rank 5 and I can still handle them, he thought and sighed in relief. Similar to how Evan couldn't sense the effect of the reality mirror when it affected his abyssal shroud, the lizard man and the others were the same and didn't realize that Evan already knew their ranks. Boss, what are you thinking about? Let's kill him and change our location. If he was a rank 5 core evolver, he wouldn't have acted like this and would have attacked us long ago, the beastkin said seriously as he tightly held his axe. When the lizard man heard the beastkin, his eyes flashed and he thought the beastkin was right. Although the Forbidden Land was filled with many high-ranking core evolvers, rank 5 people were still rare, and they usually didn't behave timidly like Evan. So, can I go? Although Evan already knew their ranks, he still wanted to avoid conflict if possible, so he asked again. You are right, let's kill him and change our position, but be careful. If you find anything strange, just run away. Our life is more important. The lizard man sent his voice transmission and took a deep breath. The moment the lizard man sent the message, the beastkin's eyes flashed with a beastly light, and he instantly dashed towards Evan. Evan was already prepared for the sudden attack, so the moment the beastkin dashed towards him. Elora, his eyes turned cold and he called out softly. The moment he spoke, a jet-black halberd, glowing with a golden aura of destruction appeared in his left hand. He quickly turned his body to the left side and swung the halberd with all his strength. At the same time, he poured his primordial shadow energy into it, making the power of destruction within the halberd even stronger. Seeing the jet-black halberd coming towards him, the beastkin felt a deep sense of crisis and used his axe to meet the halberd. The sharp blade of the halberd collided against the heavy blade of the axe, and the next second. Boom! A gigantic explosion blasted away the sandstorm from the surrounding area, and the ground cracked open within a radius of hundreds of kilometers. Evan felt an immense force transmitted to his body through the halberd, and he was blasted hundreds of meters away. Although he was blasted away, Evan regained control of his body midair due to the halberd that had absorbed most of the force and he safely landed a few hundred meters away. The beastkin, on the other hand, slid only a few meters backwards, but his expression was filled with fear as he looked at the blade of his axe. On the blade of his axe, golden lines, similar to veins, were spreading rapidly, and before the beastkin could do anything. Crack, 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 the cracking sound echoed throughout the surroundings, and the mid-level rank 3 axe shattered into small pieces. Borin, the peak rank 3 beastkin with the features of a tiger, looked at his destroyed axe with a shocked look on his face. Even the lizard man and the elf, who were rank 4 core evolvers, were stunned when they saw Evan destroy a mid-level rank 3 axe with just a single attack. Evan wasn't surprised when the axe was destroyed, as he had already expected it. The halberd of destruction was a weapon filled with the terrifying energy of destruction. Moreover, under the effect of the field created by the reality mirror, all the artifacts Borin and the others were holding turned useless, so it was very easy for him to destroy them. Since the fight had already started, Evan had no intention of letting any of them go. Shadow World. While the lizard man and the others were still in a state of shock, he said in a low voice. The moment he spoke, a black shadow stretched from his feet, instantly covering an area of around 100 kilometers. Once it covered the area, the shadow rose towards the sky and turned into a giant black dome that enclosed everyone within. The lizard man and the others looked at the black dome and their faces turned serious because they realized their connection with the outside world was completely cut off. Borin was terrified after Evan destroyed his axe in a single move and looked at the lizard man with trembling eyes. The lizard man didn't answer Borin. Instead, he looked at Evan and, after a moment, spoke in a calm voice. You are just a peak rank 2 core evolver, right? Huh. Borin and Jorvik, the beginner level rank 4 elf, were stunned when they heard the lizard man. So what if I am a peak rank 2 core evolver? Evan asked in a flat voice, not showing any expression on his face. Earlier, when he used the halberd of destruction to stop Borin's attack, he had to use his power, so his aura was released for a split moment. Although Jorvik and Borin didn't notice anything, the mid-level rank 4 lizard man clearly felt it. Evan was already planning to keep these 3 people here, so he didn't care even if they found out his rank. Boss, are you serious? Borin asked in a shocked voice when he heard Evan was just a peak rank 2 core evolver. The lizard man glanced at Borin from the corner of his eyes and said in a deep voice. Don't be fooled by his rank. Even if he is just a rank 2 core evolver, it doesn't mean he is weak. Moreover, he looked at the jet black halberd in Evan's hand and narrowed his eyes. That weapon is very dangerous. Even though I am a mid-level rank 4 core evolver, I still feel a great sense of danger from it. Evan raised an eyebrow when he heard the lizard man reminding Borin that he shouldn't underestimate him just because of his rank, and nodded his head inwardly, feeling this guy at least had a brain. Although he felt the lizard man had a good brain, he did not plan to let them go, so he made his move. Suddenly, a black aura emerged from the ground, and using the power of the shadow world, Evan immediately teleported far away from the lizard man and Jorvik, taking Borin with him. The faces of the lizard man and Jorvik changed when Evan took Borin away, and they wanted to go after him, but before they could. Swish! A bloody aura engulfed their surroundings and the smell of blood assaulted their nostrils. The lizard man and Jorvik felt a powerful aura coming from behind them and immediately turned around in shock. As they turned around, they saw a black demon with purple burning eyes and a blood-red aura staring at them coldly. You are not allowed to leave here, Zorda said coldly, and the ground around them turned into blood, causing all 3 of them to sink inside. Clang! Clang! Fu-Kei, what the hell is going on? Far away from the place where the ground suddenly turned into blood, the sound of metal clashing against metal rang out, followed by the scared voice of Borin, who was trying to defend himself against the halberd of destruction using his sharp tiger-like claws. Clang! The halberd of destruction once again clashed against Borin's sharp claws, and an overwhelming force pushed the beastkin far away as small cracks appeared on his sharp, metal-like nails that were even harder than ordinary rank 3 materials. Evan didn't give Borin any chance to catch his breath and continued his relentless assault. Boom, boom, boom. Both of them moved at lightning speed and clashed hundreds of times in just a second, creating thundering shockwaves that turned everything within the shadow world upside down. The small stone man, who was trapped within the black cage, shuddered like a frightened rabbit and looked in the direction of the battle with fearful eyes. If it wasn't for the power of the shadow world suppressing the aftereffects of the battle, the small stone man would have already shattered like fragile glass. The increase in power brought by the halberd of destruction is truly terrifying. I don't even need to use Shadow Possession to face a peak rank 3 core evolver. Evan thought to himself as he slashed towards Borin's neck. The only problem is the high consumption of primordial shadow energy, but with my current reserves, it's not difficult for me to fight for a long period of time. The Halberd of Destruction is an origin-grade weapon, and even though what Evan was using was only a replica, it still required primordial shadow energy to function. Using his conceptual energy of void and world essence, he couldn't wield the halberd properly as it demanded a very high amount of energy, so he had to rely on his primordial shadow energy while fighting using it. Clang! Shatter! As the halberd and Borin's sharp claws collided once again, a shattering sound rang out and Borin's sharp nails were destroyed. Arg! Borin screamed in pain and his beastly eyes glowed with deep yellow light, feeling anger that he was being surpassed by a peak rank 2 core evolver. Die, you bastard, he suddenly shouted, slashed with both hands and a terrifying cross-shaped wind blade shot towards Evan at lightning speed. Visit freewebnovel.com for the novel reading experience. Evan's eyes narrowed when he saw the wind slash coming towards him and the halberd of destruction in his hand glowed with a terrifying golden light of destruction. Shatter, he said in a light voice and simply stabbed at the cross-shaped wind slash coming towards him. The wind slash and the tip of the jet black halberd came into contact with each other in the next second. Puff! The wind slash was blown away like a puff of air and disappeared as if it had never existed. freewebnovel.com. What? Borin was stunned when he saw this, his eyes wide with shock, unable to believe Evan had resolved his attack so easily. I think I have played enough with you. Suddenly, Borin heard Evan's cold voice and saw him holding the halberd of destruction with both hands, pointing its tip towards the sky. Be honored, as you are the first one to experience this move after thousands of years, Evan said in a cold voice, and the halberd of destruction started to glow with black golden light. Whoosh! A beam of black golden light shot out of its tip, going straight towards the sky as if it wanted to pierce through it. However, since Evan didn't want to attract any attention, the beam was contained within the shadow world. Despite this, the raging sandstorm outside of the shadow world still trembled because of the presence of the black golden beam, and for a moment, everything within a few thousand kilometers of the shadow world turned deadly silent. Borin felt an overwhelming pressure and a sense of impending doom engulf his body. Slowly, Evan shifted the position of the halberd and pointed its tip towards Borin, who wanted to run but found himself unable to move due to the powerful pressure locking him down. As Evan pointed the tip of the halberd towards him, the sense of dread Borin felt reached its peak, and when he heard Evan's next words, his blood ran cold. Soul Slayer War Arts, First Form, Vortex of Lost Souls. When Evan received the information about the halberd of destruction after bringing it out of the tomb, he also received the knowledge about using the halberd properly. During the 2 months he spent after coming out of the tomb, other than increasing his understanding of the conceptual energy of void, he also spent a considerable amount of time practicing halberd techniques. Besides the basic halberd techniques, he also received information about a special technique he could execute only while holding the halberd of destruction. The special technique was called Soul Slayer War Arts. Because the halberd of destruction Evan brought out from the tomb was only a replica, not the real halberd of destruction, the Soul Slayer War Arts he received were incomplete. Evan didn't know how many moves were in the Soul Slayer War Arts, but because he did not have the real halberd of destruction, he received information about only the first 3 moves. As Evan used the first move of the Soul Slayer War Arts, Vortex of Lost Souls, the beam of black golden light coming out of the tip of the halberd disappeared, and a small black golden colored spinning vortex formed on its tip. Evan pointed the tip of the halberd towards Borin, bent his body forward and pulled the halberd behind him in a stabbing position. When Borin saw the black golden colored spinning vortex at the tip of the halberd, his blood turned cold, and a sense of impending doom engulfed his body. Latest chapters at freewebnovel.com only. He wanted to run away, but a powerful force was locking down his body, making him unable to move or even use his world essence. The primordial shadow energy within Evan's core churned wildly, and he poured a large amount of energy inside the halberd of destruction. In an instant, the halberd of destruction absorbed all the energy that Evan poured into it, and the vortex on its tip stopped spinning for a moment. The moment the vortex stopped spinning, Evan's eyes shone with a sharp light and he stabbed forward in Borin's direction. When Evan stabbed forward, the halberd and the vortex didn't produce any sound. The terrifying power of the halberd of destruction simply ripped apart the space. The area inside the shadow world lost its color, turning pure black for a moment. The vortex at the tip of the halberd detached itself and slowly moved towards Borin, who stood in the same place, looking at the incoming fist-sized black-golden vortex with a look of horror on his face. Borin's eyes were filled with fear and he tried to raise his hands in front of him to stop the vortex, but the speed at which Borin lifted his hands was so slow that it looked like he was moving in slow motion. The small spinning vortex arrived in front of Borin, and before he could lift his hand even a few centimeters, it struck his chest, sinking within his body. The moment the vortex sank inside his body, the area within the shadow world, which had turned pitch black, started to return to normal and soon regained its colors. However, the place from where the black-golden vortex passed by was still pitch black, as if that area was swallowed by something. Thud. Within the silent shadow world, a thudding sound rang out and Borin dropped to his knees with hollow eyes, as if his soul had left his body. Slowly, blood started to flow out of his eyes and his aura gradually weakened. In just a few seconds, his aura dropped to the very bottom, and the next moment, swish, a colorful vortex shot out of his body and rushed inside the halberd of destruction. The moment the colorful vortex sank inside the halberd, Evan felt the power of the halberd increase a little bit, and the boost it was giving to his powers while holding it strengthened by a small amount. "Allura, can this soul help you strengthen yourself?" Evan asked Allura once the orb was swallowed by the halberd. "This soul is very weak and won't help much," Allura instantly replied upon hearing him. Hearing Allura, Evan pondered for a bit and said after a moment, "Since this soul can't help you much, then don't refine it. We can use the soul collected by the first move of the Soul Slayer war arts to execute the second move, right?" "Yes, but father, this soul is very weak, and you won't be able to use the second move without collecting more souls." "I see." Evan frowned a little when he heard that even the soul of a peak rank 3 core evolver wasn't enough to execute the second move of Soul Slayer war arts. Well, considering the fact that the second move is powerful enough to even threaten a rank 4 core evolvers, it's not surprising that it needs a lot of energy, Evan thought to himself and shook his head. "Allura, don't destroy his soul and let it stay put for now," he said and walked towards Borin. "Okay, father," Allura said hearing Evan, and the halberd of destruction disappeared from his hand. Evan came in front of Borin and noticed that although his aura had dropped to the very bottom and he had lost his soul, there was still life force within his body. "If I don't return his soul to his body, the weak life force remaining in his body will soon disappear," Evan said while rubbing his chin as he looked at Borin's hollow eyes. "Now that he has lost his soul, I wonder if the trunk coon will deliver a new soul inside his body," he muttered with a strange look on his face. If a new soul really gets delivered inside his body, wouldn't he become a son of heaven, son of destiny, or some sh*t like that? Although Evan really wanted to see if the trunk coon would do its job or not, he couldn't wait for too long, so he sighed and, with a simple gesture, wiped out Borin's life force. After killing Borin, he put away his body inside his shadow storage. Primordial Shadow Energy, 1936. He glanced at his status window and, seeing he still had around 2,000 points of shadow energy left, he nodded his head in satisfaction. He had been using the halberd of destruction during the entire fight and was even managing the shadow world, which also consumes primordial shadow energy, so seeing he still had nearly 2,000 points of energy left even after all this, he was really glad. "I can finally use the primordial shadow energy to execute powerful skills without running out of gas in just a minute or so," he thought to himself and took a step forward, instantly appearing near the blood pond that Zorda created earlier. Evan looked at the blood pond that was churning wildly as if an intense fight was going on inside, but he did not care too much about it because he was certain that Zorda would win easily. Although Zorda was fighting 1 against 2 and the Lizardman was also a mid-level rank 4 core evolver, he couldn't match Zorda because Zorda's power came from a rank 6 vampire. Although the blood life orb that Evan created using the life steal skill wasn't able to extract Anderson's full power, it was still at the very peak of mid-level rank 4, and with Zorda's outstanding control over blood, he could even face peak rank 4 core evolvers without much problem. "Oh, looks like it is over." Suddenly the blood pond started to disappear. A few seconds later, Zorda came out of the blood pond while dragging the Lizardman and Jarovic. Both of them were bleeding heavily, their auras were in complete disarray and they were unconscious. Evan looked at both of them and, after a moment, spoke in a light voice. "Kill the Lizardman." Hearing Evan, Zorda's purple eyes glowed, and the next second, bang, bang, 2 booming sounds came from the Lizardman's body as his heart and brain exploded, wiping out his life force in an instant. Once the lizard man died, Evan placed his hand on the head of the elf and a golden aura appeared around him. He will be a good booster for Elysia, he said inwardly, and a small golden-colored field covered the elf's body. Life steal. Arg! The unconscious elf was suddenly jolted awake and screamed in pain. Seeing the elf was trying to break free, Zorda's eyes glowed and the elf's body stiffened. The elf struggled to break free, but under Zorda's control, he wasn't able to do anything. Although Evan became a peak rank 2 core evolver, it would have been very difficult for him to drain the power of a beginner level rank 4 core evolver, but because Zorda seriously injured the elf and was even helping him to restrain him, it was not difficult for him to drain all of his powers. Although Evan became a peak rank 2 core evolver, it would have been very difficult for him to drain the power of a beginner level rank 4 core evolver, but because Zorda seriously injured the elf and was even helping him to restrain him, it was not difficult for him to drain all of his powers. The elf continued to struggle and slowly, his youthful appearance started to turn old until, a few minutes later, he turned into dust and disappeared from the world. Once the elf disappeared, Evan took a deep breath and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Finally, I can get another rank 4 shadow undead, he muttered in a low voice and grabbed the marble-sized golden orb floating in front of him. Name: Light Life Orb. Rank: Beginner level rank 4. Type: Consumable. Energy type: Light Energy. Seeing the information of the orb, a faint smile appeared on Evan's face and he tossed it inside his shadow storage. After tossing the light energy orb, he put away the lizard man's body and finally looked at the small stone man who was shaking in fear and looking at him with horror-filled eyes. FeWebinSigmaVel.com. What's wrong with this guy? Evan raised an eyebrow when he saw the way the stone man was looking at him and walked towards him. Seeing Evan walking towards him, the look of fear on the stone man's face increased even more, and he started to back away. Don't come near me, he shouted in a stuttering voice and backed all the way to the end of the black cage. Is this guy stupid or something? Evan was speechless when he saw the way the stone man was acting and felt there was something wrong with this guy's brain. He just killed the people who kidnapped him and even protected him from the aftereffects of the battle so that he wouldn't die, but this guy was acting as if he was some kind of demon and was here to eat him. You know, it's not good to treat a person who literally saved your broken A*S like this, Evan said in a light voice as he stopped in front of the cage. Please, don't turn me into dust like that guy. The little stone man completely ignored what Evan said and buried his head into the ground while covering it with both of his hands. Don't turn me into dust. Evan raised an eyebrow when he heard the stone man, and when he remembered what happened to the elf's body, he finally understood why this guy was so scared of him. Although I can understand what I did to that elf can be considered demonic still. Isn't this guy a complete coward? He muttered with a speechless look on his face and rubbed his eyebrows. What should I do with this him? He thought to himself and looked at the stone man with a pondering look on his face. This is updated by, the reason the stone tribe started to hunt all the core evolvers must be related to this guy. If I bring him back, I may be able to receive some benefits from them. At the same time, I can ask them about the will of Utopia since searching for it blindly in the Forbidden Land is not a good idea. Evan thought and, with a simple gesture of his hand, crack, he shattered the black cage. Arg, please don't kill me, the stone man, scared to his core when Evan shattered the cage, immediately backed away as mercury-like thick tears flowed out from his big round eyes. Evan was about to say something, but alas, he should really have checked his fortune before leaving the closed world of dryads, because the moment he was about to speak. Rumble, the entire black dome created by the shadow world started to shake, and the next second. Bang, the shadow world was destroyed by a powerful force. Evan was stunned when the shadow world was suddenly destroyed, and when he looked up, he saw a 5-meter-tall giant, made of dark gray stone floating high in the sky, looking at him coldly. The aura coming out of the 5-meter-tall stone man was like a tsunami, and even though he was just looking at him, Evan still felt a great deal of pressure. This guy is at least at the peak of rank 5 if not rank 6. Evan thought while gritting his teeth and enduring the powerful pressure. He was about to tell the bastard who was pressuring him that he was not the one who kidnapped the small stone man, but his shitty luck reacted again, and before he could say anything. Uncle, save me, this demon wants to turn me into dust. You fucker, Evan cursed the small stone man, but the next second, his eyes widened in shock as he saw a giant hand made of stone coming towards him from the sky as if wanting to turn him into a meat paste. These mother fu curs. Evan was shocked when he saw the stone man wanted to kill him without listening to him. The power that he felt from the giant stone hand was so high that he was sure that even with the help of Abyssal Shroud's passive skill, Dragon Guard, and his newly created armor, he would be seriously injured or, in the worst case, die if he got hit by this attack. Knowing that his life would be in danger if he didn't do anything, a look of hatred flashed in Evan's eyes and he looked at the stone man who was floating high in the sky coldly. You better wipe that Fu King stone neck of yours, you mother fu cur. Evan shouted in a cold voice, and his body was engulfed in silver light. Because the next time I see you, I will Fu King kill you. A bright light flashed and Evan disappeared from there. You have used your title, the owner of the Eldoria City. You are being teleported to Eldoria City within the world domain. Evan looked at the two notifications in front of him with cold eyes as his body moved through the void space. In the Forbidden Land, the peak rank 5 stone man narrowed his eyes when he realized even under his pressure where space was completely locked, Evan somehow managed to escape. Just when the stone man was thinking how Evan managed to escape, a white beam came from the depths of the Forbidden Land and disappeared at the place where Evan was standing before he used his title to escape. Inside the void space, Evan was still fuming with anger when suddenly, a white beam struck him and before he could understand what happened, he disappeared from the void. The sound of water flowing rang out and with a flash of silver light, Evan appeared above a river. This chapter is by, as he was just teleported, he wasn't able to control his body and dropped into the water. Splash! The Fu K. Evan was stunned when he was suddenly submerged in the water and lightly pushed himself upwards. Boom! The moment Evan pushed himself upwards, a booming sound rang out and he was shot towards the sky like a rocket. The river water exploded as if someone had detonated a bomb inside it, and tens of kilometers of area shook as if an earthquake was coming. Evan was momentarily stunned when he noticed what happened and a speechless look appeared on his face. He looked down from the sky and his mouth hung open when he saw that, because of the light force he used to leave the river, the water from an area of 10 kilometers had disappeared from the river and was slowly recovering. What the Fu K is going on? Evan was shocked upon seeing the empty area in the middle of the river and couldn't understand what was happening. As he looked at the river with an empty space devoid of water in the middle of it, a possibility suddenly came to his mind, and his eyes narrowed. Could it be because of the limitation of the world domain? The highest rank one can reach in the world domain is the peak of rank 1, but I have already reached the peak of rank 2, which exceeds the scope of this world. He muttered in a low voice, looking at the river which had finally recovered to its original state. Does it mean I am a world-destroying boss while I am in the world domain? Evan thought with a strange look on his face and immediately controlled his power as he did not want to cause any unnecessary damage to the world domain. Speaking of which, where am I? I should have been teleported to Eldoria City, but it doesn't look like I am anywhere near it. Evan looked around him and saw he was hovering above a lush green forest. Although the forest was filled with tall trees, compared to the dark forest or the forest area that he saw in the Southern Territory, this forest was nothing. He used his hawk's eye skill and soon, his vision expanded, and he was able to see what was at the end of the forest. The Fu K. Upon seeing what was at the end of the forest, Evan's eyes opened wide in shock, and he felt as if he was dreaming. Am I really in the world domain? He muttered in a low voice and once again looked around him. After looking around him, Evan suddenly noticed a crucial thing and his expression turned ugly. I can't see the Tower of Ascension anywhere. The world domain was vast. Although it was not as big as Utopia, it was still very big compared to Aurora World, where Evan was transmigrated. But even though the world domain was vast, it was a fact that people could see the Tower of Ascension from anywhere within the world domain. The Tower of Ascension was located at the center of the world domain and could be seen from anywhere inside the world domain. But upon looking around, Evan realized he couldn't see the Tower of Ascension anywhere. Moreover, he also found that there was no sign of world essence in his surroundings. Instead of world essence, the environment was filled with mana. Although there was also mana in the environment of the world domain, there was also world essence mixed in it. But in his current surroundings, Evan couldn't feel even an ounce of world essence, much like the Aurora world, which was also devoid of world essence. If it is not the world domain, then could it be? Evan once again looked towards the end of the forest using his hawk's eye skill, a deep frown appearing on his face and he accidentally released some of his aura. Rumble. The moment Evan released some of his aura, the entire world seemed to tremble. The clouds in the sky instantly evaporated, small cracks appeared all over the ground, and hundreds of trees within the forest collapsed. Noticing the damage he accidentally caused, Evan immediately controlled his aura and took a deep breath. I need to stay calm, he said to himself, and thought about the white light that suddenly struck him when he was in the void. When he was struck by the white light, Evan was still thinking about the stone man who attacked him and was not paying attention to his surroundings. At that time, he thought the white light was something caused by his teleportation, but now he felt like his teleportation location changed because of that white light. Did that stone man do something to interrupt my teleportation? Evan thought aloud and found it possible, as the rank 5 core evolvers were powerful enough to easily disturb the space using their attacks. If I was really teleported to the wrong location because of that bastard, then I am really fucked up, he said while rubbing his eyebrows, feeling a headache because of all the bad things that were happening to him since he left the closed world of dryads. Evan looked at the city at the end of the forest, and after hesitating for a moment, he gritted his teeth and used his powerful spiritual senses. Let me see if my guess is correct, he muttered in a low voice, and in an instant, his spiritual senses spread to thousands of kilometers. His spiritual senses reached the city in an instant, but he didn't stop there, and in just a few seconds, Evan's spiritual senses covered the entire world, as it was a very small world compared to Utopia or the world domain. Once Evan's spiritual senses were fully spread, his body shook for a moment, and he started to breathe faster. Sure enough, he muttered in a low voice and stopped using his spiritual senses. This is definitely Earth, and I am in the middle of the Amazon forest. He looked at the distant city, which was surrounded by high walls, and a confused look appeared on his face. But if this place is really Earth, then why the hell is there mana in the environment, and why is most of the planet occupied by monsters? After using his spiritual senses, Evan assumed he was on Earth despite noticing many differences from the Earth he had known. The reason for this assumption was the presence of several famous landmarks like the Statue of Liberty, the Taj Mahal, the Eiffel Tower, and a few others he saw using his spiritual senses. Could it be that this is not the original Earth but a parallel Earth or something where people can use mana? Evan muttered in a low voice. Just as he was deep in thought, he suddenly noticed something and looked toward the city at the edge of the forest. Upon looking towards the city, he saw some people flying in his direction. Around 10 people. 2 are S rankers, and the rest are A and A+ rankers, he muttered with a surprised look on his face, solidifying his assumption that he was on a parallel Earth. It's not even 5 years since I died, so it's impossible for so many A and even S rankers to appear on the original Earth, he thought to himself as he watched the 10 people flying in his direction with serious looks on their faces. Although I already noticed this when I used my spiritual senses, it is still surprising to see so many A and A+ rank hunters in such a small city. If I am not wrong, although this world is a lot smaller than Aurora World, the number of high-level hunters in this world is far higher than in Aurora World, Evan muttered and waited for the people to come near him as he wanted to ask them a few questions. Commander, there is a person hovering in the sky around 200 kilometers away from us, an A-rank hunter, whose eyes were glowing with faint light, said to a tall black-haired man who was flying in front of the group. The man had deep black eyes, was wearing a battle suit, had an athletic build and a handsome oval-shaped face. Hearing the A-rank hunter, Leon, the S-rank hunter, frowned. Just a few minutes ago, their energy radar detected very powerful energy waves coming from the depths of the forest. Fearing that the high-level monsters of the forest were planning to cause a beast tide or something, Leon, along with Emma, the second S-ranker, and 8 other A and A+ rank hunters decided to check out what was going on. But he never expected to hear a human hovering in the middle of the dangerous forest. Could it be a high-level hunter who came before us to check the situation? Emma said to Leon in a low voice. She had shoulder-length black hair, green eyes, and similar to Leon, she was wearing a high-tech looking silver-colored battle suit. Hearing Emma, Leon thought for a moment and after a few seconds, spoke in an uncertain voice. We are the only S-rank hunters stationed here, and I didn't receive any information that any high-level hunter was coming here. As for other hunters from our base, I don't think there would be anyone foolish enough to enter the depths of the forest alone. Emma was silent upon hearing Leon and after a moment said in a low voice. You mean there is a chance that he might not be a hunter but a humanoid monster? Leon nodded upon hearing Emma and said in a serious voice. Although the chances are low, we still need to be careful. He looked at the A-rank hunter who had informed him about Evan earlier and asked in a serious voice. Can you confirm his rank? Hearing Leon, the A-rank hunter once again looked into the depths of the forest, his eyes flashing with white light, and after a moment, he shook his head. I can't confirm his rank. It is as if he is just a normal person and there is no mana within his body, the A-rank hunter spoke in an apologetic voice. Can't see his rank, huh? Leon and Emma's expressions turned even more serious upon hearing the A-rank hunter. Suddenly, the expression of the A-rank hunter changed. What happened? Leon and Emma were startled when they noticed the change in the hunter's expression and hurriedly asked, thinking there was something wrong with the person in the depths of the forest. freewebnovel.com. Commander, that guy in the forest, he is. What's wrong with that guy? Just speak already, Emma said in an annoyed voice when the A-rank hunter continued to stutter instead of answering them. The most novels are published on freewebnovel.com. The A-rank hunter took a deep breath upon hearing Emma's annoyed voice and finally spoke in a clear voice. When I looked at him just now, he waved back at me and signaled me to come deeper into the forest. Huh? Leon and the others stopped flying when they heard the hunter and their expressions turned strange. Did you just say he is calling us deeper into the forest? Emma asked with narrowed eyes. Yes, the hunter nodded his head helplessly as he looked at Evan, who was still waving his hand. I think it's a trap, Emma said to Leon, who was looking deeper into the forest with a frown on his face. Although Leon did not have a skill like the A-rank hunter who could see distant objects, he could still see a small black dot hovering a few hundred kilometers away from him. Even if it's a trap, do you think we can do anything against someone who released an energy wave that nearly destroyed our energy radar? Leon took a deep breath and spoke in a calm voice. If we want to check what is going on, we need to meet him even if it's some kind of trap. Hearing Leon, Emma and the other hunters were silent as they also knew the energy wave they felt earlier was ridiculously powerful. Leon was still looking at the small black dot in the distance and was about to say something to his teammates, but suddenly, he noticed the black dot in the distance disappear. Leon's expression changed when the black dot suddenly disappeared, and before he could take any action. You guys are really slow, huh? All the hunters heard a calm voice and noticed that someone had appeared just a few meters away from them. Evan's sudden appearance alarmed Leon, Emma, and the other hunters, causing the mana within their bodies to churn. It was obvious that all of them were ready to attack. Who are you? Leon asked with a wary look on his face as ice mist emitted from his body. Looking at the black-haired youth with an average-looking face, Leon didn't feel anything, as if the guy in front of him was just a normal human without any power. This discovery frightened Leon because Evan was clearly not a normal person. Yet, he, an S-rank hunter, couldn't sense anything from him. Could it be that this guy is also someone who is above S-rank like them? Leon suddenly thought, and his body tensed up. Seeing the wary and scared look of Leon and the others, Evan didn't know what to say, so he took a step back and raised his hand. You don't have to be afraid of me. I don't have any ill intentions towards you. Upon seeing Evan's action, Leon was slightly surprised and his tensed body relaxed a bit. Although he didn't see how Evan suddenly appeared in front of them, he was sure that with his speed, it would have been impossible for them to even react if Evan wanted to harm them. Though Leon sighed in relief because Evan didn't attack them, he still didn't drop his guard. Can you tell me who you are and which base city you are from? Base city. Evan muttered the two words inwardly and felt confused. When he used his spiritual senses earlier, he had already noticed that this Earth was very different from the Earth he knew. Although there were a few similar things here, most of the things were still different from the original Earth. The size of the cities was very small. All the cities were built behind giant walls, and most of the planet was occupied by monsters. What should I say? Should I say I am from New York? After all, the Statue of Liberty I saw using my spiritual senses must be located there, right? Evan's mind raced as he tried to think of an answer, but after a few seconds, he gave up and said in a calm voice. I am not from any base city. I am a lone wanderer who travels all over the world, hunting monsters in the wilderness. A lone wanderer? Emma and the others' eyes turned strange upon hearing Evan's reply, and they looked at him with a weird expression. Leon also felt Evan's answer was ridiculous because everyone knew just how dangerous the area outside of the base cities was. But considering his power, he might be telling the truth, Leon thought to himself. Although he felt Evan was hiding something, he didn't discard the possibility that he might be telling the truth. I see, so you are a wanderer, huh? Leon nodded his head with a calm look on his face. You believed him. Emma and the other hunters looked at Leon with a speechless expression. Clearly baffled, Leon ignored Emma and the other's strange looks and asked another question. Just a few seconds ago, we felt a very powerful energy wave coming from the depths of the forest. Do you have any idea what it was? Powerful energy wave. Evan raised an eyebrow when he heard Leon and suddenly thought about the aura he had accidentally released earlier. So these guys came here because of my aura, huh? He thought for a second and replied in a calm voice. Before you guys came here, I just fought against an S-rank monster. I think the energy waves you felt must be from my fight against that S-rank monster. Fight against an S-rank monster. Leon and the others' expressions changed when they heard Evan. Yes, Evan nodded, and without anyone noticing, his spiritual senses covered the entire forest. He immediately found there were 3 S-rank monsters inside the forest, and after looking at the 3 S-rank monsters, he decided to use the one closest to them. It was a 5-meter tall silver-colored bear. I was leaving the forest when it suddenly attacked me. Unfortunately for that guy, I was prepared for it and killed it. As Evan spoke, his spiritual senses pressed down on the Titan bear, which was around 200 kilometers away from him, and its brain immediately turned to mush, wiping out its life force. You killed the silver Titan bear? Emma asked in a shocked voice. Yes, if you want, I can take you to see its body. Wait, Emma pressed her hand on her forehead and took a deep breath. You said you killed the silver Titan bear, right? Evan looked at the bob-cut black-haired woman who had an unnatural expression and nodded his head. Seeing Evan nodding, she once again took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. And you want us to follow you if we want to see its dead body? Well, if you guys want to see the dead of the bear, then I can lead you. If not, then forget it, Evan said with a shrug of his shoulders, and at the same time, thought about leaving from there. If I need information about this place, I can simply ask other people in the city who will not act as cautiously as them. He thought to himself, but when he remembered the white light that changed his teleportation location, some doubts emerged in his heart. Although I'm guessing that the white light might be related to that peak rank 5 stone man, if I'm wrong, it's obvious that someone has deliberately disrupted my teleportation. Evan looked at the hunters in front of him and his eyes flashed. If someone really sent me here intentionally, then it is clear there must be something special about this place. Only high-level people like these guys can provide me with the information I need. Hey, you are fooling us, right? There is no way you would kill an S-rank monster and leave its body in the forest. Have you set some kind of trap inside the forest and want to lure us there so that you can deal with us? Visit for the best novel reading experience. Evan came out of his thoughts hearing Emma's suspicious voice and saw her looking at him with narrowed eyes. Left the body of an S-rank monster. Hearing Emma, Evan immediately understood what she was trying to say. freewebnovel.com. The body of an S-rank monster is very valuable. Be it for creating artifacts or potions, a high-level monster's body can be used in many ways, and Evan just said he did not bring the body of the S-rank monster after killing it and left it in the forest. Man, I completely forgot the body of an S-rank monster is very valuable in this world, he sighed inwardly, but his expression didn't change. It's up to you whether you believe me or not, he said, and looked at Emma with a slight smile on his face. As for the thing about preparing a trap to kill all of you, Evan simply flicked his finger in Emma's direction and released some of his power. The moment Evan flicked his finger, the space split in a straight line, leaving behind a long trail of a 5-centimeter wide void rift that barely missed Emma's head. I don't need to lure you into any trap if I want to kill you. Emma, Leon, and the others felt a chill run down their spines when they saw the long trail of the void rift that was slowly recovering, and gulped their saliva. Fouquet, now I am sure. This guy is definitely above S rank just like them, Leon cursed inwardly and quickly spoke. Of course, we believe you. There is no way someone as powerful as you will play tricks on us, right, Emma? Emma gulped her saliva when she heard Leon, and looking at the slowly recovering void rift just a few centimeters away from her, she nodded her head like an obedient child. Leon is right, I am sorry for doubting you. There is no way someone like you would set a trap just to kill us. Evan smiled when he saw this and once again asked, so, do you guys still want the body of that bear, or should we go back to the city? Leon scratched his face when he heard Evan and spoke in a somewhat embarrassed voice. It would be a waste of resources to leave something like that here, so we should take it with us. Evan nodded hearing Leon and started to fly deeper into the forest. Leon took a deep breath upon seeing this and along with the other hunters, quickly followed after him. After a minute, When his heart finally calmed down, Leon introduced himself. By the way, I am Leon, the commander of the 5th base city, and she is Emma, the vice commander of the city. I am EV. Hearing Leon, Evan was also about to introduce himself, but suddenly, he thought about something and decided to use his Earth name. I am Ray. The expressions of Leon and the others had already returned to normal, but when they heard Evan introducing himself as Ray, their expressions once again changed. Evan noticed the change in their expressions and was about to ask what happened, but before he could. I didn't expect there would still be someone who would use the same name as that devil. He heard the low muttering voice of an A+ rank hunter and his face turned strange. I didn't expect there would still be someone who would use the same name as that devil. When Evan heard the muttering of the A+ rank hunter, he was taken aback and looked at him with a frown on his face. Leon and Emma began to sweat when they saw Evan looking at the A+ rank hunter with a frown, thinking he was displeased with the comment. Slap. Leon quickly slapped the hunter on the back of his head and looked at Evan with a forced smile. Don't mind this idiot. Like a few others, he also believes that everything that happened on Earth is related to that guy, so. Evan was utterly confused when he heard Leon and didn't understand what they were talking about, so he asked with a raised eyebrow. What are you talking about? Can you speak clearly? Leon and the other hunters looked at Evan's confused face and were taken aback. You don't know Ray, the devil? Emma asked with a stunned look. Huh. Evan was even more confused when he heard Emma. Could it be that there are other races on this Earth besides humans and monsters? Evan quickly thought when he heard the word, devil. Unbelievable. Emma and the other hunters were shocked when they saw Evan's confused look and were certain he didn't know anything. Have you been living in a cave since your birth? All of them wanted to ask Evan the same question, but remembering the power he showed earlier, they didn't dare speak rashly, afraid that he might flick them too. Death. Evan's mouth couldn't help but twitch when he saw the looks that Emma and the others were giving him. Although they didn't speak, their expressions clearly screamed words like, caveman, country bumpkin, shut in. Seeing Evan's twitching mouth, Leon was really confused as to why he didn't know such a common thing, and many doubts emerged in his mind. But for now, he knew his priority, so he quickly took the lead and started to explain to Evan. The devil Ray they just mentioned is actually the person who was suspected to be the one who caused this chaos on Earth. As you know, the Earth used to be a normal planet without any supernatural powers. But more than 15 years ago, everything changed because of a guy named Ray. As Evan listened to Leon, his expression started to change and a sudden possibility emerged in his mind. I'm just overthinking, right? He thought to himself and gulped. Leon didn't notice the change in Evan's expression and continued to explain. On the 21st of February 2020, a guy named Ray died in a car accident, but once he died, the people who gathered around him noticed strange patterns appear on his body, and then his body exploded into a burst of energy, engulfing the entire planet. Although the energy didn't harm people or cause any damage to the planet, it still changed the whole environment of Earth, giving birth to this energy known as mana. Leon paused after speaking and continued a second later. Although it sounds unrealistic, many people believed that guy had signed a contract with a devil or something, and when he died, the contract activated, causing this change on Earth. What kind of bullshit is this? Evan said with a speechless look on his face upon hearing Leon. Well, although I don't know if that guy had signed a contract with a devil or not, I also believe that the changes on Earth were related to him. After all, the first dungeon that appeared on Earth was actually inside the apartment where that guy used to live, Leon said with a shake of his head. Died in a car accident more than 15 years ago. Hearing what Leon said, Evan felt a sense of déjà vu as he remembered the day he died in the car accident. Moreover, the day Leon mentioned was also the 21st of February, the same day he had his accident. He took a deep breath to calm his surging emotions and asked in a low voice, "What year is it?" Did you say something? Leon didn't hear because Evan's voice was very low. I asked, "What year is it?" This time, Evan's voice was loud enough, so Leon and the others clearly heard him. The expressions of Emma and the others once again turned strange when they heard Evan and their faces seemed to be saying, "Free web novel, co. This guy is definitely a caveman." Evan didn't care about their strange expressions and stared at Leon with narrowed eyes, waiting for his answer. Leon gulped seeing Evan's narrowed eyes and quickly answered his question. Today is the 8th of March, 2036. Boom. Hearing Leon, Evan felt as if a thunderbolt had struck him. and the possibility that came to his mind earlier when Leon started speaking solidified even more. Could it be that this isn't a parallel Earth, but the original Earth? And the reason there are so many hunters here just a few years after my death is because time flows differently here compared to Aurora World and Utopia, Evan thought with a serious look on his face as he remembered the memories he had seen upon entering the hut inside the tomb of the ancient. Are these things related to that figure I saw in my memories upon entering the hut? Many doubts emerged in Evan's heart, but before doing anything, he needed to confirm if he was really on the original Earth or if it was a parallel Earth. This content is taken from, since that guy was something like a devil as many people call him, you must have investigated his background, right? What did you find about him? Hearing Evan, Leon sighed and shook his head. The government of that time did investigate his background, but they didn't find anything special. That guy was just a useless, jobless, waste of air shut-in who liked to play games all day. All right, this guy is definitely talking about me. Now Evan was even more certain that the devil they were talking about was him and that this was most likely the original Earth where he had died, not a parallel Earth. Things are becoming more and more messy, Evan thought inwardly and felt a headache. Evan led Leon and the others deep into the forest. Just as they were about to reach the spot where he had killed the silver titan bear, he thought of something and activated his wind manipulation skill. A few kilometers away from Evan's position, dozens of wind blades suddenly materialized, slashing deep wounds into the bear's body, making it appear as though the creature had been killed by the wind blades rather than having its mind turned to mush by Evan's spiritual power. They will act like scaredy cats if they find out I can kill them with just a thought using my spiritual power, Evan thought as he landed in front of the silver titan bear's body, which lay there with a peaceful expression on its face. When Emma and the others noticed the scene, they were shocked to see that the area around the bear's body was completely intact, with no signs of a struggle. Since there's no sign of a fight, it means the bear wasn't even able to retaliate and was killed instantly. They thought, once again wondering just how powerful Evan truly was. You guys can take this body, but in return, I need a few things, Evan said calmly, glancing at Leon from the corner of his eye. Leon signaled Emma to collect the body and then looked back at Evan. What do you need? As long as it's not something unreasonable, I can get it for you. Don't worry, I just need some common things, Evan replied with a nod and listed what he wanted. Leon raised an eyebrow as he listened to Evan's requests, but after a moment of consideration, he nodded his head. The first two things are easy to handle, but as for the third, I'll give you an answer by tomorrow. Sure, Evan agreed, not minding waiting for a day or two. Soon after, Emma finished collecting the body of the S-ranked silver titan bear and stored it in her storage ring. With the task completed, they all began to leave the forest. Eager to gather more information about this world, Evan decided to use his wind manipulation ability to wrap Leon and the others in a wind barrier, and in just a few seconds, he transported them directly in front of the city wall. Leon and the others were dumbfounded when they realized they had immediately appeared in front of the city wall in just a few seconds. I've seen people above S rank fight against monsters a few times, but this is simply outrageous, Leon screamed inwardly as he realized he needed to report Evan's presence to the other base cities. Shall we enter? Evan asked calmly, ignoring the shocked expressions on Emma and the others' faces. Yes, Leon stammered, taking a deep breath to calm himself before nodding his head. Leon led Evan towards the entrance of the city, where 2 B-rank hunters were standing guard. There are definitely more high-level hunters here than back in Aurora World. Even the people standing guard are B-rank, Evan thought as he entered the city along with Leon and the others. Upon entering the city, Evan raised an eyebrow, noticing something he had previously overlooked when he had inspected it using his spiritual senses. This place looks more like a fortress than a city, he muttered quietly, observing the many hunters patrolling the area and noticing that most of the items being sold were not meant for common civilians. Because Leon was only a few meters away from him, he overheard Evan's muttering and nodded his head in agreement. This place was created specifically to keep the monsters in the forest in check. We clear out some of the monsters in the forest every month to prevent their numbers from growing too large and causing a monster tide. I see, Evan nodded as he understood the city's purpose. About 10 minutes later, Leon brought Evan to a 2-story building. Emma and the other hunters had already gone back to their duties, so it was just 2 of them now. You can stay here for now. I'll come by tomorrow to give you an answer about the requests you made earlier, Leon said, handing Evan a bracelet. This is the communication device you asked for. It has everything you need. I can use the internet through this, right? Evan asked while taking the black bracelet from Leon. Leon's mouth twitched slightly as he thought. He really is like a caveman. But he still nodded in response. Good, Evan nodded in satisfaction upon hearing he could access the internet through the bracelet, as it would make it much easier for him to gather the information he needed. Well, then I'll see you tomorrow, Leon said, seeing Evan nodding his head, and left from there. At first, Leon thought about sending a hunter to keep an eye on Evan, but after remembering Evan's immense power, he quickly dismissed the idea, knowing that Evan would easily detect any attempts to monitor him directly. The up-to-date novels are published on freewaynovel.co. Instead, Leon chose to rely on the security cameras installed throughout the city to monitor Evan's movements. It won't be difficult to track him using the cameras, and I don't get the feeling that he's here to cause any trouble, Leon thought to himself before disappearing from view. Evan didn't care about what Leon was thinking and went inside the house. As he entered, a spacious, furnished living room greeted his eyes. He looked at the bracelet in his hand, and after putting it on, he sat down on the sofa in the living room and activated it. Immediately, a holographic screen appeared in front of him. rewebensigmavel.com. Without wasting time on unnecessary things, Evan opened the search engine to look for the information he needed. However, the moment he accessed the search engine, a news article flashing at the top caught his attention, and he noticed something unusual. Evan narrowed his eyes when he noticed a picture in the article and clicked on it. Soon, the news article opened, and when he saw the picture clearly, his eyes widened in shock. What the hell is she doing here? He muttered in disbelief. What the hell is she doing here? Evan stared at the holographic screen, his eyes nearly popping out of their sockets. On the screen, there was a photo of a beautiful woman with long silver white hair and green eyes. The woman had a cold and indifferent expression on her face and was standing amidst thousands of monsters, all frozen solid within ice blocks. Although her hair color and face looked quite different, Evan was sure that she was Valerie, whom he hadn't seen since leaving the Aurora world. Her current appearance looked similar to when she used the power of her physique. Evan muttered with narrowed eyes, recalling Valerie's Ice Reaper form that he had seen her use a few times. Evan read the article, and after confirming that the woman in the photo was also named Valerie, a deep frown appeared on his face. If she is really Valerie, then how did she end up here? Moreover, it's not even a year since I left the Aurora world. She was just a B+ rank hunter at that time, but according to this article, the woman in the photo is actually an S rank hunter. How did she increase her rank from B+ to S in such a short period of time? As Evan pondered deeply, many questions emerged in his mind, and he started to wonder whether the woman in the article was the same Valerie he knew or not. I need to meet her, he muttered in a low voice as he looked at the photo on the holographic screen with narrowed eyes. If she is really the Valerie that I know, then I need to find out how she ended up here. If not, then I need to confirm how she is related to her. Even if the woman in the article wasn't Valerie, Evan was sure that she was somehow related to her. Maybe it's something related to her special physique. After all, this woman looks awfully similar to how she looked after using the power of her physique, he thought as he searched for information about Valerie on the internet. As he looked for information about her, he was surprised to find that, according to the information available online, she made her first appearance around 5 months ago. The first time she appeared was in a small city that had suddenly experienced a dungeon breakout, and she single-handedly killed all the monsters that broke out from the dungeon. When Evan tried to find other information, like where she grew up or where she was from, he found that no such information was available. It was as if no one knew where she came from. The chances of her being the Valerie I know have increased quite a bit. Evan muttered while rubbing his chin when he saw there was no information available about her origins. But she first appeared 5 months ago, which means it was just 3 or 4 months after I left the Aurora world using the Tower of Ascension. Evan said with a thoughtful look on his face. Just as he was deep in thought, something clicked in his mind, and Evan's expression changed. No, it's not right. Based on what I've discovered so far, time may flow differently here compared to Utopia and the Aurora world. Since she appeared here 5 months ago, it's possible that she disappeared from the Aurora world just around a month ago. From the information that Leon gave him, Evan confirmed that more than 15 years had passed since he died. Although it's been only about 4 years for him since he died, over 15 years have passed here, which means the time ratio difference is nearly 4 years. The only thing I'm still unsure about is whether this is really the original Earth or a parallel one, he said, and started to search for information about Earth before dungeons and monsters appeared. After looking for information for about 2 hours, Evan took a deep breath and narrowed his eyes. From what he found on the internet, he was now at least 99% sure that this was the original Earth where he had died. Besides researching the history of Earth, he even checked information about famous people he knew and found everything matched what he remembered. Heck, he even checked the release dates of some of the games he had purchased and found they were also identical. It seems it's really not a parallel Earth but the original one. The time just flows differently here compared to Utopia and Aurora World, he said to himself, and suddenly remembered what Leon had told him. According to Leon, after my death, some strange patterns appeared on my body, and it exploded into a burst of energy that changed everything on Earth. Evan tried searching for something related to his death on the internet. Since people believed it was because of him that everything changed on Earth, he thought he might be able to find something. And just as he expected, when he searched online, he soon found some posts and videos related to him. However, most of the posts he found were completely fake or made up. His face couldn't help but twitch when he saw one post with a photo of himself lying naked on the ground, surrounded by people and covered in blood, with strange patterns engraved on his body. Some people are really... He was truly speechless seeing such a photo of himself. If you want to stir up something by creating fake posts, at least make it believable. I mean, why the hell am I naked here? Did they think I'm a retard who would go out naked? Evan cursed the person who created this fake post, who even called him a devil spawn, and then looked at other posts to see if he could find something real. After about 10 minutes of searching, Evan finally found something, and his eyes lit up. It was CCTV footage taken by a camera installed near the traffic signal where he had died. He immediately played the footage, and soon, the familiar scene of him cursing the traffic signal for always being red whenever he was in a hurry played before him. Updated from frewebnoel.com. Strangely enough, when he saw himself getting hit by the car, he didn't feel anything. The car didn't stop after giving him a transmigration ticket, and disappeared from the scene, while a crowd of people gathered around his body. But Evan paid them no attention as his focus was entirely on his blood-soaked body, waiting to see the strange patterns that Leon had mentioned. Suddenly, Evan noticed something familiar on his body and his eyes narrowed. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.